anything that happened in Baltimore from 2000 and 2001, if I tell it in my story, I can tell it in my story. Because I was there when Ray went through what he went through in Atlanta. I was there. I was picking him up from the courthouse. He was living with me in my basement. So if I want to tell my story, that I should be able to include.
So Shannon Sharpe has been going through it, man, for the last year and a half. Like, we know that he exploded onto the scene, right, with Club Shay Shay and the Nightcap. At any given night, man, on Nightcap, he can have 30,000 people watching him, right? But now the situation happened with the woman, Gabrielle Zuniga, and all the stuff when she was 19 years old. She ended up saying that he did all kinds of wild stuff to him. They had video, they had audio. It was just a mess, right? Shannon Sharpe lost all of his sponsorships, right? But then he also had Club Shay Shay. And on Club Shay Shay, he brought on Cat Williams and he brought on Monique. And Cat Williams, man, he came on and just went in on the whole industry. Now, mind you, these people that he went in on have sponsorships by the corporations, and the corporations invest hundreds of millions of dollars into these people. But Cat Williams, who is also an industry insider, he's spilling all the beans on these people, ruining their reputation. So the corporations don't like that. So who they go after? Shannon Sharpe, because Shannon Sharpe was the next guy up. Now we know that Shannon Sharpe is maybe top 3 greatest tight end of all time. He's the man that revolutionized that position. Shannon Sharpe, as a football player, was one of my favorite football players at that time, right? As a person, I'm not really too keen on Shannon, right? But as a football player, yeah. But when he allowed Monique and Cat Williams to go in on these entertainers, a lot of entertainers start taking shots at him, like Mike Epps and Cameron and Mace, after he had that. Because remember, he had the LGBT guy as his stylist going everywhere with him, and people was questioning that. They was wondering, what's going on with Shannon? Why is he doing, why is he rolling with this guy, man, right? And a lot of people started to fall back from him. And one of the people that started to fall back from him was Ray Lewis. Him and Ray Lewis that was his homeboy, right? They was on that 2000 championship team together, right? They was on commercials and everything. But Ray Lewis said that he started to drink. He never seen him drink. He started to do things that went against the kingdom, right? So Ray Lewis went on to a podcast and really got at Shannon Sharpe. Now, Shannon was real hurt about this. But this is Ryan Clark. He came in and he responded to all the situation that's going on, and he said this.
Ray Lewis, though, fell victim to the exact same thing he ended up sort of condemning by the time he was finished talking about Shannon Sharpe. I don't know what their relationship was, right? And so when you have a relationship, sometimes there are things that go on personally that make you view a person different. But I think the one thing that Ray Lewis should understand more than any of us is grace and redemption, right? Ray Lewis went through something extremely public that could have ruined him as a player and as a person. And now people have allowed Ray to grow far enough away from that to where they do see him as a spiritual leader, to where they do see him as a leader of men. And so when he's speaking on that platform in that manner about Shannon Sharpe, one, in order to accept his words, we had to accept him and forgive whatever transgressions people felt took him away from being the Ray Lewis they knew at that time and allow him to grow back into it. And so I think he has to think about that as well. And as far as like any money or any fame, like money doesn't change people. It only enhances your desires and who you are. And the thing you got to do when you're looking at entertainment, right, because this is entertainment, is do I want to become a caricature of myself? And if my priority is money, what am I willing to give up in order to get money? Am I willing to give up my integrity? Am I willing to give up my character? Am I willing to turn into something different to get the money, right? And it's like some people rather lose as themselves than win as something else. Some people just want to win at all costs. And I'm not saying that Shannon has done that. All I'm saying is we actually don't know, right? And so when you're speaking on who somebody is from personal experience, Ray can do that. I can't. You know, all I know is when I've been around him, he's been good to me. I know he's picked up the phone and hollered at me. He's definitely done things that I disagree with. things that I wouldn't choose or do for myself. But it's also not on me to condemn him in the manner that now people have to look at my past and say, okay, is this somebody that should be saying those things? And I think for Ray, it is a situation of like, if that's supposed to be your guy, if you are living in the way that Christ has led you, right, where is that grace?
Now Ryan Clark is asking Ray Lewis, where's that grace? Because he was there for you, right? When you was going, you went through something that could have wiped out everything. You would not have the things that you have now, right? If it wasn't for people forgiving you and giving you grace. Somebody had to see something in you to say, hey, we're going to reinvest in this guy, even though he's part responsible for some lives being taken, right? So how can't you not grant Shannon Sharpe that same grace? Why would you go onto that show and say the things that you said about Shannon, knowing what you've been through, with all the criticism? Why couldn't you just call your brother and talk to him behind the scenes and let him know how you felt? Why would you do this? People were saying, now there's an audio, a video of Shannon calling out Ray Lewis for when Ray Lewis kneeled for the flag during the time of the Colin Kaepernick situation, right? And I know that Ray Lewis felt some type of way about that. And he began, to me, that's when he began to distance himself. Check this out.
And I'm very disappointed. And a few I'd like to say, I'm very disappointed in one of my very best friends, Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis sat in that chair right there and said that he could never kneel. He could never not stand for the national anthem. Because so many people died, and he had family members to fight for this country. The opportunity and the flag means so much to him. And he kneeled. Not on one knee, on both knees. So what were you kneeling for? You kneeled, you showed solidarity because of what President Trump said? And when Colin Kaepernick is trying to draw attention to the injustices going on, you deemed that inappropriate? LaShawn McCoy, you remember what you said about a month ago about Colin Kaepernick? Not only were you kneeling, you were stretching. You were even worse than kneeling. The hypocrisy. And that's what I find so ironic about this, Skip. The very people that said they could never, ever kneel. Some people, I like Tom Brady. Tom Brady said, I'm not going to touch it. I prefer you do that. But these, all of a sudden, what are you, I just want to know, what are you unifying against? Are you showing unity? Are you showing solidarity against racism or the injustices that's in this country? Or are you showing solidarity against President Trump and what he said? His attack on the very NFL, the shield. Because what we know about, above all else, those 32 men and the commissioner will protect that NFL shield at all costs against all foreign and domestic. President Trump had to find out the hard way. They've allowed him to attack so many groups in America. It wasn't until he came for one of 32 and the 1,600 men, and only a handful of them, Skip, have ever nailed in protest. Yep. And he called them an SOB, and that shocked the conscience.
I would say that this, both of them are crazy to me. As Shannon as a person, because I've heard all kinds of stories about Shannon, what disparaging things he said about black women and all those things, right? I've heard that he wasn't really like a very likable person, right? In person, like to deal with, right? On a football field, the gridiron, that's something different, right? I rock with Shannon, right? We know Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis was looked at as a phony. Like a lot of guys really didn't rock with Ray Lewis. Now, for me, Ray Lewis want redemption, but when the situation was going on with the police brutality and all the things that we was going through as foundational black Americans, Ray Lewis didn't stand with us. Shannon did. But Shannon would get called out for speaking all this black stuff, but he loved those W women, right? So he would get held accountable for that. But when it come to this, I feel like Ray Lewis is wrong. Ray Lewis shouldn't have went on to that man's podcast and said those things he said about Shannon. I thought he was being petty. I thought that he was trying to pay Shannon back because he just felt some type of way that Shannon got at him on Undisputed. So he decided to just take a shot at Ray Lewis. And these guys, they have huge egos. They're professional athletes. They're used to people kissing their behinds from high school all the way up through the pros. And I don't think that Ray Lewis is jealous, but Ray Lewis is seeing the success that Shannon Sharpe has had since retiring from the NFL, right? And like I said, his podcast is booming. Like, he's killing them, right? And I think that he's going to get all his sponsorships back. He's handled everything behind the scenes. One thing about the corporations love money. And that nightcap show still getting 25 to 30,000 people every night. Football season has come back. They're going to reinvest in him and make a lot of money off of him. They're going to want that money. So, but I hope that this has humbled Shannon. Because I would say to Shannon, if he can hear this, your biggest problems came from W women, not the sisters that you had bad things to say about in the past, because you've been exposed for talking bad about the sisters. But you ain't in serious trouble from the sisters. You in trouble from the W woman. You just retired a W girl having to give her $23 million, right? When you say disparaging things about the black community in the past, right? So I hope that you got your wake-up call and you learned from this, right? But I just felt like Ray Lewis, that was low, because you're supposed to be his guy to kick him when he's down. You could be upset with him, but when they ask questions about him, you could have just said, man, listen, he going through a tough time right now, man. I don't really have much to say. I'm praying for him. And you could have just left it at that. Why would you go on there and take that shot at him like that? And the way that I saw Shannon respond, you could tell that Shannon was real hurt. Out of all the people that will say certain things, it's you. So I hope that they can have a man-to-man conversation amongst each other. But I know when you're dealing with men, sometimes, especially black men, our egos get involved and it just gets crazy. But I'm going to cut this video short here, man. If y'all made it this far in the video, hit that like button. Subscribe to Street Media TV. Let me know what you guys think, man. Remember, I love y'all. Till the next time. Peace.